Saturday, Plus Sports Special on PlusTvAfrica. My name is Wally Scott. Welcome on the show. Mukayo Tinubu, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Victor Godfrey.
Finally, I have you back.
Yes. Now, former Brazilian soccer great Pele remains in an intensive care unit and is recovering satisfactorily. Almost a week after surgery to remove a tumor from his colon, his doctors said on Friday. In a separate social media post, the 80-year-old, 3 times World Cup winner, said he was feeling better and joked he still had hopes of playing again. Now, the doctors discovered the tumor last week during his annual medical, and it was operated on last Saturday. It was not clear if the tumor was cancerous. The former Santos and New York Cosmos player, famous for already getting injured, but he's offered from hip problems for years now and cannot walk normally. His public appearances were already being out before the COVID-19 pandemic, and since then he has made 2 necessary foray outside his house near Santos. He's on last year on his own famous father was depressed. His last son, that his famous father was depressed, something the star quickly denied. Now, Mukayo, I'll start with you. When Pele was playing football, he was rarely injured. This is just a simple case of age.
Yes. Age catches up to even the greats. And unfortunately, we have to watch them suffer through all kinds of surgeries and hospital visits and worry about losing them, because we can't imagine, when they were playing, we couldn't imagine them stopping. And now that they are in their old age, in the twilight of their years, we can't imagine a world where we no longer listen to Pele's opinion on the sport, because he is one of those players, those ex-players whose opinion matters the most. Losing Diego Maradona brings home the fact that the
reality.
Yes, these legends, their legends might be immortal, but they are not.
I said it last time, I'm saying it again. I think it's totally insulting for people to compare Pele to Ronaldo or to Maradona or to Messi. And I say that without fear of favor, because this man has won 3 World Cups.
Well, there was the last line you read where he said his son spoke about his father maybe expressing a bit of depression. And of course, Pele debunking that. I'm going to get to that point in a minute.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit depressed because, I mean, look around. Players like Ronaldo and Messi are breaking his records right, left, and center. Now, let's talk about Pele winning the World Cup. We have to understand that as much as it's very prestigious winning the World Cup in 1952 and 58, and of course in 70, fantastic. But the level of competition back then wasn't the same as it is right now. So as much as I give Pele credit, I think Pele was a player ahead of his time. Like his skill level was what you expect now, but back then he was miles ahead of everybody back in his prime. I'm not saying that Pele wasn't great. I mean, I think for me the best version of Pele was not even the guy that won the World Cup at the age of 17. It was his last World Cup in 1970 in Mexico. That was for me the best version of Pele. And people always forget that even in those World Cups, Pele wasn't really the star Brazilian player. He just, like he mentioned, his legend just grew. The star players were players like Jairzinho and other players like
Mario Zagallo.
And the one, Garrincha as well.
Yeah,
so
Garrincha.
there were better players actually, to be honest, than Pele in those era. But you know, Pele was just one that his legend went on. And if we're going to compare players, it would be unfair, because the truth of the matter is we have different eras and things evolve over time.
And I would say that the accumulation of trophies at this level for Messi and Ronaldo,
or any other modern player.
Yeah, and then Pele spent most of his career in
Santos.
And
we
South
know
America.
that South American football is not very tactical. Like you've mentioned in the past, it's all about flair. So they
yeah.
won't break your leg. There's
Yes.
no. It's just like, let's go there and have fun. Let's
Yes.
dance.
But the truth be said, I just think that if football is pacey now, it was pacey then to them. If football is, if football,
Like I said to
yes, to them. If football was really skillful then, and now it was really skillful for them then too.
But
the only difference I see, in my time, I will see things For example.
Like there's no school like the old school. Yeah.
I'm not even the old school at the old school. It's like, I'm saying that if something was hard for me then, and it's hard for you now, it was as hard for me then too.
Yeah, but you see, the parameters are quite different because back then, maybe all you needed to do as a footballer was just ability to control the ball. That was all. Whether your positioning was right or not, just put the ball on your feet and pass. But nowadays, we've seen how goalkeeping position.
But we've seen teams. Before the coach talks to them, they first watch football, watch the other team play. There's technology. They can the coach can send anything to your WhatsApp and say, okay, look at how they play. Watch it from home.
But then,
they didn't have that then.
But then that's extra,
it was harder then.
But then that's extra homework for you. These players are not just going in for an hour of training. They're going back home to watch game time. They're going back home to watch not just opposition game time, but their own game time to improve upon themselves. They have to try things in training that back then players couldn't try. And we've talked about how even the coaching has evolved.
It has evolved.
The demands on these players, the fact that they have to live up to standards that across Europe, across Italian football, you have a Ronaldo who has played in England, who has had to deal with the rigors of English football, even though he started from Portuguese football, which, unfortunately, when I watch Portuguese football, I'm like, every 2 minutes is a stop because they kick you as though you are the ball and not the player. So a player like Ronaldo, who has won as much trophy in several European competitions, several European nations, and has managed to win at every level that he has been at, whereas Pele, no offense to Pele, I love the idea that
he's an absolute legend. But I feel like
he's an actual legend. But when we're talking about greatest of all time, of course,
he's not,
in 20 years, another generation will be telling us that we don't know what we're talking about because we're still sticking to Ronaldo and Messi. But the demands in that era will be greater than the demands in this era, and we'll just have to live with it.
But Hazel, also to add to that statement, you spoke about things being harder for people in an era. Back in, let's say, the 70s and or 80s, you can claim and say, okay, football was a bit more physical stuff and all that stuff, which is okay. I can understand that. But if you flip the script to this modern era, you also have very, very strong and tough. At least we have a guy called Sergio Ramos that is willing to, if a red card is just waiting for him, just anytime he wants it, you just give it to him. Because he's a very physical defender. You see how the game, like the Premier League, is so fast. That's what everybody talks about. Even players experience have won World Cups and stuff like, wow, they come to England and the pace is so much. So if you're going to talk about Pele, in his era, as I said, he was ahead of his time. Go back and watch the videos carefully. Most of those defenders, after he dribbles them once, they stop and watch Pele play. While right now, one player dribbles you, you think Ramos will wait before you even control moving forward. Another player is coming to.
He does you
based on that.
Mo Salah.
There you go.
Based on that, I would like to make one last point. Some of the very best managers that we have now are ex-defenders.
Yeah.
So defenders now are more tactically aware.
Goalkeepers
they read
now.
The game.
Goalkeepers now, the demands on the goalkeeper at the top level now is more than it was back then. Back then, just catch the ball and balloon it forward. Now you have to be able to control the ball because play starts from the back. So if a goalkeeper in the 21st century speaks about it being difficult or excels, I'm no offense to any goalkeeper we had in the 70s. The guy in 2021 was better than the guy in 1970 because the guy in 1970, all you had to do was just catch the ball and throw it back. Now you have to be able to control. See Edison of Manchester City. An absolute fantastic goalie in goal, shot stopper, everything, but he has to be able to control the game. He even makes assists. Alisson Becker of Liverpool, the same. So as much as I respect Messi, Maradona, let's be honest, what Ronaldo and Messi and any other person in this modern generation have achieved kind of trumps what they had back then. I'm not disrespecting what we had, but football now is tougher than it was back then.
Right now with goalkeepers, they are basically the fifth defenders.
True that. Depending on the system you're playing.
Yes. And a defensive midfielder is not just an anchor man. He's not just a destroyer. He's a box-to-box, and he's also a defender.
He also goes forward.
Even fullbacks these days are now, more like wing-backs.
Yes.
Sometimes even wingers.
True that.
We saw Gareth Bale move from left-back to a forward.
How you need to, just what you need to know about that area, that number 10 position, how hard it would be for any player back then to cope in that area right now. Even Mikel Obi is better than all the DMs back then. Even Mikel Obi, as limited as his abilities were playing for Chelsea, his positioning
was quite different.
That's
why I had an argument one time and I almost got punched in the face. True story. When I said that Vincent Nyama was better than Peter Rufai, I was almost got punched in the face. I'm like, how dare you? And this is an individual that saw Rufai in the 80s. So he was aware of Rufai in 1988 at the Nations Cup, 1990, 94. So he saw him in his prime. I didn't see Rufai in the 80s. I wasn't even born then. However, I've seen Vincent Nyama, and I said, sir, with all due respect to Peter Rufai, because I always say this, the legacy, the fact that Rufai was at the 98 World Cup destroyed his legacy, in my opinion, because that was the first time I actually saw the great Rufai in goal, and I was not impressed. I was like, this is the super Peter Rufai, but all due respect to him, he was getting old. He was past his prime at 98, for sure. But, however, like he mentioned, if you break it down to the stats, now we have, the stats these days are a lot more impressive than it was back then. Yeah. And then let's not forget that you play in Brazil, then you go to the MLS. Come on, that's not hard competition. He didn't play in England.
It wasn't hard.
He didn't play in Italy.
Okay.
No.
Now, the king is back. Ororo is back. Cristiano Ronaldo will make his second debut for Manchester United when they host Newcastle United in the Premier League today. Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said, but he did not confirm if the Portuguese forward would start. Okay, now Ronaldo rejoined United from Juventus on a 2-year deal and will be looking to add to his 118 goals at Old Trafford, where he won 8 major trophies in 6 seasons. Solskjaer said Ronaldo's return had lifted the mood of United, and 36-year-old who had trained all week brought with him a winner's mentality. Ronaldo will, don the number 7 shirt again at United. And Solskjaer said its former owner, Uruguay striker Edison Cavani, had no qualms after handing it to the Portuguese forward. If we can hear this, Mayowa, I don't know if you can hear this, he was talking about him coming here to win. I've just come here to win.
True that.
I've not come to play. Let's hear that. And then we'll come back and continue the discussion. Like he said earlier, he's a workaholic, and he says so. He said, I'm going to work towards it. I've come here to win like I came before. And no doubt, off and on the field of play, Ronaldo will make a positive difference in Manchester United.
Ronaldo is a workaholic. He will inspire that work ethic in
everybody else.
Players like Fred may not live up to the expectation of a DM in a Man U form. In a Man U jersey, he may not be the DM they need. But I promise you this season he will play like he wants to be the only DM they've ever had.
Because
you can't do more than... See,
but somebody is there who has stepped up their games.
Can I say something real quick?
Somebody was talking about it yesterday and was saying that... Wale mentioned it on the show today. I said, what? He said, shouldn't they make Ronaldo the captain? And I said, Harry Maguire is English. They won't give it to Ronaldo.
But here's the thing. Even before I come to that point, you talk about Fred playing all his best game. A 4'2" ginger midget cannot slam dunk in a professional basketball.
No doubt.
It can't happen because even though he has the skills, he's not tall enough.
You can't do what you don't have.
Exactly. So Fred can't do that because he doesn't have it. But let's come back to what you just said. Ronaldo doesn't need the armbag to be the captain.
I know that.
In fact, in my own
he's already the captain.
In my own opinion, I feel like Maguire is just a figurehead. In fact, in that dressing room, I would reckon it is between Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, who are the true leaders of that dressing room, not even Maguire, because Maguire doesn't even strike me as somebody that...
He doesn't strike us.
That talks.
Very, very vocal, something like that. So, but you mentioned something about United. When Rooney said when he came to United at first, when Man U didn't win a match, it was as if it was the end of the world, that they were so sad. And even when they won a match, they didn't even celebrate. Because he came from Everton, whereby if they win a match, everybody's like, 3 points. But United, they win a match, like, okay, now to the next one. So that changed his mindset and mentality. That's Wayne Rooney. But that was a long time ago. That was an old United dressing room. This current United dressing room, unfortunately, has more, almost like the Arsenal dressing room. They have more, model-like footballers, superstars like a Lingard that would dance, or Pogba. Yeah. Ronaldo is coming back like, you guys can dance, Twitter, Instagram, but you see winning trophies, and you can see Bruno Fernandes brought that energy. So you have 2 guys with that same mentality
from the same country.
There's this thing in the wolf pack that natural alpha stands.
Ronaldo is obviously the main.
Ronaldo is obviously the main man. The Pogbas who have delayed renewing their contract because they
felt like they're the guy.
Yeah. Now they will have to look to a Ronaldo who has the next 2 years to breed the kind of united mentality
And
That he had.
under Ferguson.
And the good thing is this. Okay.
And he's going to have the complete support of a manager who also played under
Played with
Ferguson.
him.
And also played with him
Played
as
with
well.
him.
And also played with him. And then you're going to have the likes of Harry Maguire, who's going to have to step up because he's English, like you said.
And there's Varane, who is also, they call him Champions League Varane because he has done it all.
Yes.
So now just to
He's
even
won the World Cup.
just to add to that mentality we're speaking about, I see players like Greenwood and Rashford, Rashford is still young. I feel Lingard he looks young, but that dude is getting on in age. So, but I see players like Greenwood and Rashford and any other younger guy coming from the academy having Ronaldo in the dressing room alone, because you have to understand that these are academy players from United, so obviously they have spent time on YouTube watching
him,
Ronaldo's free kicks and goals. So it's like a dream come true watching your idol, and you have this
Right beside
wide-eyed
you
wonder,
playing.
literally. So that's one of the reasons why I'm sure Lingard didn't want to leave United because he wanted to play Ronaldo. But the thing
He
is,
felt it in his bones before it was ever
what to
announced.
do to players like Greenwood is like to teach them how to become proper professionals.
Winners.
Yes.
And how to take care of your body. Ronaldo, I mean, it's very weird when people think that West Brown, that player that you saw with
West
the
Brown,
interview, played with Ronaldo. They literally are not too far apart, but you can clearly see the difference. Wayne Rooney and Ronaldo are not too far apart in age, but Rooney looks like he's
Ronaldo
1,000.
is older
than Rooney.
And Rooney is already managing.
And Rooney looks as if he's like 1,000 years old. He looks like an old man. But Ronaldo, look at his frame. There's a picture of him when he was at the Euros 04. Chiseled frame, and just last international break when he scored, broke the record with Portugal. The same physique. Look at that man. Look at the two players that played together.
He hasn't added much body fat onto that.
Pure
frame.
muscle.
He's complete
Athletic.
muscle. He's still very pacey, more pacey than most players in the game. And players like you said, Mason Greenwood, Jadon Sancho, all these players, Rashford, who have looked up to Ronaldo, will look at this opportunity now, not just as a chance to learn from the great, but also that while they play in the same dressing room, on the same field, they have to step up.
True that.
Now, world number one Novak Djokovic kept his bid for a calendar Grand Slam alive yesterday, overcoming German Alexander Zverev 4-6, 6-2, 6-4, 4-6, 6-2 in the US Open semi-finals. Djokovic moved within one win of reaching a men's record 21 Grand Slam titles and avenged his loss to Zverev at the Tokyo Olympics in front of a roaring crowd at the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Now, while Rod Laver sitting in the first in the crowd, 52 years old, after he achieved the same feat, the last man to do so, he will face a Russian Daniel Medvedev. We'll see that and we'll come back and discuss that. He says one more game to go, Novak Djokovic. And he was watched by Rod Laver, the legendary Rod Laver. And the man did the same thing 56 years ago. And can Djokovic get the Grand Slam?
Yes, he can. I won't even let you finish. Wait, let me check my
He's going up against Medvedev.
Let me check my crystal ball. Yep. The Joker wins it.
He's going up against Medvedev. Can there be a surprise in that game?
No.
I think there's always room for surprise because he has had to put up with a lot of matches this US Open tournament where he has been pushed to the very end. And even this Zverev game, starting the game, going down all the way to 3-2. I mean, that amount of energy expended, that amount of fatigue builds up. There's always the possibility that he could lose. Is it likely? Maybe 30-20%.
Valtteri Bottas puts in a mega lap in heat. Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton and qualified fastest yesterday. That's at the Italian Grand Prix. Bottas takes the lead over Lewis Hamilton. Now, I've got Seun Ajidagba on the phone. Good morning, Seun.
Yeah, good morning, Wale. It's a pleasure joining you on PlusTvAfrica.
Okay. Now, cricket fans in India were disappointed as the fifth test between England and India at Old Trafford was cancelled barely 2 hours before its scheduled start yesterday. Now, after the tourists failed to field a side following a COVID-19 case in their camp, fans in New Delhi and Lithuania cities with India could have played their fifth match and bring home the trophy. However, they were satisfied with the fact that India won 2-4 up in the series. Seun Ajidagba, in the past, COVID-19 has seriously affected cricket negatively, and now things are coming back to normal again, and it's affecting it again. England against India in the cricket world is a massive game.
Wale, to the told, the England and Wales Cricket Board chairman, Tom Harrison, said the postponement of the fifth test that was supposed to happen at Emirates Old Trafford between India and England was not because of the Indian Premier League that is to resume on September 19. Remember, sometimes in May, Wale, the highest paying cricket competition in the world, the Indian Premier League, got cancelled on match day 39 when Punjab 11 and Sunrise Hyderabad were supposed to meet as a result of COVID cases among those players. So he said this is not the reason they are postponing it. But while the truth of the matter is, the first test between England and India, the head coach of India, his name is Ravi Shankar, himself and 3 other backroom staff tested positive for coronavirus, and they had to self-isolate. So the fifth test that was supposed to happen at Emirates Old Trafford did not go ahead as planned, even when we knew that India are leading England 2-1 in the series. But the honest truth is that it's COVID cases that ensured that this will not be completed this year, and as we move to 2022, while last year, because of COVID, they had to play the Indian Premier League in United Arab Emirates as against India that used to host the Indian Premier League. As I speak to you, India has a high rate of COVID cases. And that's why the T20 competition, which is the World Cup, that West Indies are the defending champions, they are not going to play in India. But rather, United Arab Emirates are going to host it. So what the England and Wales Cricket Board and the Board of Control for Cricket in India have decided to do is that once they finish the Indian Premier League, which starts on September 19th, teams will remain in United Arab Emirates for the T20 Cricket World Cup that India was supposed to host but was moved to United Arab Emirates because of the COVID cases. But the honest truth is that even if Tom Harrison comes to give us what we Nigerians call landmark, that is not because of COVID cases that made them move it. The truth of the matter is, the reason is because of COVID cases.
I think Victor has a question to ask you.
Yes, Sergio, good morning. So the question I have is...
Victor has a question to ask you.
Good morning, Seun.
Good morning.
So the question I have is, you just mentioned something about the COVID-19 cases. However, there was also massive reports yesterday that the physio for England wasn't able to be around, the physiotherapist for the English cricket team. That was also one of the reasons why the game was cancelled yesterday, which was a massive disappointment to fans and, of course, the media alike, because everyone was looking forward to that particular match. So what do you make of the fact that the English cricket team don't even have a backup physio if the main one is not able to perform his duties?
Well, let's be frank with ourselves. We cannot joke with the issue of COVID. They wanted to play that game, but because of what happened to Ravi Shankar and some of the 3 players, that's the reason they said, okay, let's see what's going to happen for the game 5.
But the game was already delayed. Yesterday was not the first. Yesterday was not the first postponement of the game.
When the likes of Wilfred Ndidi, Peles and some of our players did not travel to Cape Verde because they were going to miss the weekend game because they start some countries
I get that, but I was
when
sure.
it comes to COVID-19 patients.
If you can hear me, the game was actually yesterday was not the first time the game was postponed. It has been postponed already before. So yesterday, that's why it was a bit frustrating because people already made plans to be at Manchester yesterday, and then for like the third time, the game was called off again. And of course, now your reason being raised due to COVID-19 cases, but like I said, there are many more things that actually happened behind the scenes, including the fact that the physio wasn't able to perform, their duties for the English cricket team. So my question is, what is the true story? Is it COVID-19 or is it the fact that England were not just well prepared for this particular test match?
Let me tell you something. This cannot be a problem. You know why I'm saying that? In football, you have real competition and we have friendly games. You don't back an eye if you lose a friendly game because you learn from it. What will pay you the most if you are playing a World Cup qualifier or a Nations Cup qualifier and you lose at home? England are not bothered that India comes to their house to do them. Let me even tell you, this is even a small competition to England. The one that pays England the most is to play, and that is the Ashes series.
With Australia.
It's the most celebrated international cricket rivalry between England and Australia.
And Australia, yes.
That dates back to 1882. And it has the smallest cup that they call URN. URN. So that rivalry is so intense, such that England don't even want Australia to come to England and beat them, while Australia will not even want England to come to Australia and beat them.
Okay, Seun, I have very little time on the show. Seun, hello, Seun. Hello, Seun. I have very little time on the show, and I have a very serious topic to discuss. So let's talk about it. So please stay with us. In recent times, players of the Super Eagles and even the Super Falcons have fallen out with the Nigerian Football Federation officials over bonuses and allowances due to them. It's been almost like a life bug issue with the Eagles downing tools at major international tournaments like the World Cup and the AFCON to ensure they got their financial entitlements, but in the process paints the country's image in bad light. Now, what recently Falcons captain Desire Paranozie was excluded from the squad after she clashed with the Nigeria Football Federation's officials over allowances for her teammates following a media outcry. Paranozie was reinstated, but not after she was stripped of the team's captaincy, which was taken over by fellow striker Asisat Oshoala. On Monday, the Eagles, prior to their Qatar 2022 World Cup qualifier against Cape Verde, were promised a sum of 20 million by the chairman of the Airpeace, Alan Onyema, to beat the Blue Sharks, a team ranked 77th by FIFA. The players were also promised a sum of 1 million naira each for goals scored against Cape Verde by a real estate company in Nigeria. Now, in total, the team got 22 million for the win, aside their mandatory match bonuses and allowances. However, do the Eagles need cash incentives as motivation to win games or qualify for major tournaments? She wants to start with you on that question.
We are not serious as a nation. The internal clients, they have what they call accumulated fees. And the accumulated fees is as a result of when you have qualified for Qatar 2022, this is the amount you guys are going to be accrued to. Amaju Pini goes about selling only Super Eagles at the expense of other national teams. The same Amaju Pini cannot be ashamed of himself that the Nigerian Professional Football League is nowhere near anything professional. The same Amaju Pini cannot be ashamed of himself that the Nigerian National League is a shame, it's a shambles. Look at what they are doing in Benin. In the same time, do you organize such a competition, 4 matches in a day, back-to-back matches? Are we serious? And so, Eshe Udiko will now sit down now and say, we have concluded the MPFL.
Quickly, Victor, what's your take? Sharon, slow down. What's your take quickly, Victor? We have little time, really.
So now, real quick, like you mentioned, whether
you said what?
I'm coming, Sharon.
Mentioning whether they need incentive to play for the country. The question is, the answer is a very big yes, which is yes. Reason being that, first of all, in years before now, they don't even pay the players their match bonuses. And you have to understand, we've had individuals who have been injured playing for the national team.
The question is, do they need
Yes, they
incentives
do.
to motivate them?
Yes, they do. It's part of motivational. Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that.
Where's patriotism?
Oh, okay. So now, we're talking about patriotism, but we have to understand that, first of all, our bodies, footballing bodies or sports administration and all that whole stuff, they're not organized. Now, again, these players are putting their body at risk, losing their spot at their professional clubs. Because when you get injured and you go back to your club and you lose your spot, that's it for you.
You have to work harder, yes.
A footballer has a very limited timeline. We've seen many ex-football players who we thought were making so much money in their prime, and it turns out they were not really making much money. After they retire, they're literally begging for money.
I really wish we could talk about this all day, but we can't. We have no time. Mr. Ajidagba, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to do this, brother.
Thank you very much, Victor Godfrey. Thank you.
Pleasure,
Thank you very much, Mukayo Tinubu.
Thank you.
Join us same time next week on Plus Sports Special on Plus TV Africa. My name is Wale Scott. Like I always advise you, at the end of every show, if not for anything, at least for your heart, do some sports.